The Biden administration has warned the Solomon Islands that the United States will take unspecified action against the South Pacific nation. This, if its recently concluded cooperation agreement with China poses a threat to U.S. or allied interests. The White House says the message was delivered directly to the country's leadership on Thursday by a visiting senior U.S. delegation. The visit came just days after China and the Solomons confirmed they had signed a security pact, which is a development that has alarmed neighboring countries and Western allies who fear a military buildup in the region. Well, with us now to discuss this situation is Ms. Cleo Paskal, non-resident senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and special correspondent for the Sunday Guardian. Ma'am, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, this meeting is quite a big deal, one of the highest level U.S. visits to the Solomons in decades. So what is the significance of this direct message from the U.S. to the Solomon Islands?
There are a few very important things to pull out. One is that it's a failure of Australian policy. Australia led a lot of Western policy in the region, including for the Five Eyes, which includes Canada. And the fact that this has gone so far under Australian oversight shows that there has been a real problem with Australian leadership across the region, and that's why the Americans had to come themselves. Also, it must be made very clear, this is a message to the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands. He's a corrupt, pro-PRC guy. He does not represent the vast majority of the population of the country. And so this is very much contained. It's not about the Solomon Islands as a country. It's about this particular regime that's in power and their relationship with China.
And for our viewers who may not be familiar, can you briefly go over the key details of the Solomon Islands China Security Pact?
It's a very almost colonial 19th century type of deal, which at the behest of the Solomons government, which again means this guy, Prime Minister Sogavare, he can invite in the Chinese military to help suppress domestic dissent, for example, to protect Chinese interests. He can provide a base for support, resupply of Chinese naval, air force, missile defense systems. It's very wide-reaching and it's very protectorate 19th century style agreement.
And the government of the Solomon Islands is saying that this agreement only has domestic applications. So why is the U.S. concerned about regional security?
Well, two elements to that. It does have domestic applications, and the main application is suppressing the opposition to Prime Minister Sogavare. So if you care about democracy in the region, and remember, the capital, the main island of the Solomon Islands is Guadalcanal. This is 80 years ago this summer will be the commemoration of the beginning of the Battle of Guadalcanal, which was the last time the American military had to go in to protect and defend freedoms of the people of the region from an expansionist Asian power. So this is very evocative of that kind of a situation where you have a leadership that's a proxy leadership from an expansionist Asian power that now might have the military might to oppress the local population who really just want the sort of democratic freedoms that were fought for 80 years ago.
And to add to that, we've really been seeing China tightening its grip on the Indo-Pacific region. So how are experts such as yourself interpreting these recent moves?
This is not unexpected. We've been seeing this happening across the region. This is the tip of an iceberg. So we've seen this, yes, in the Solomons, the deal is out. We've seen an actual piece of paper that's been admitted to be signed by both sides. But this process is very well advanced in a lot of islands across the region. And this is very much going back to a World War II type of map where the Chinese looked at where the Japanese put their emplacements to try to block off the US and interdict Australia. And they're replicating it through political warfare instead of kinetic warfare, but it's moving very, very quickly.
All right, ma'am, just about a minute and 30 seconds left here. But taking a step back, how might the Security Pact affect the balance of power in the greater Indo-Pacific region?
It's designed to cut off Australia, so, and which means limit the Quad. The Quad is Australia, US, Japan, and India, which is why today there's a Japanese delegation that just landed in the Solomon Islands, also very concerned about the situation. So if you can start to break up the Quad, it allows a lot more maneuverability for the PLA Navy across the Indo-Pacific region.
What are you keeping your eyes on as this situation develops, ma'am?
There is an election that's supposed to be held in the Solomons next year in 2023. This government is trying to get the elections postponed. We've seen their budget for next year, and they don't even have proper funding for the election. So if they manage to create a security situation that allows them to invite in the Chinese and put off the election, then that's a takeover of the Solomons. And for the sake of the people of the Solomons who want democracy, we have to make sure that that election happens.
All right, Ms. Paskal, thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Great pleasure. Thank you for covering the topic.